Hi, my name's Ted, and welcome to The Play's the Thing. This channel is dedicated to and committed to teaching Shakespeare, and especially if we can through performance, which I think is the best way to do it. So today we're going to look at how we can teach the plot in a way that's engaging and visual, and especially for those hands-on learners, get everybody involved in a way that creates sort of a safe environment, in a way that's hopefully gets everybody engaged. So please, if you're here, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and as we go through many of these videos, please post your comments on the bottom, ask questions, post suggestions for other people, because as we know, the best professional development is not sitting around in meetings, but it's teachers talking to teachers. So let's have a dialogue. Ready? Let's go. So, teaching Shakespeare is hard, and learning Shakespeare is even harder. You know, you've got the funny names and the odd plot things going on, and a bunch of, language and vocabulary and syntax, and we're dealing with, a population that's used to reading like 50-character text bites, so it's really kind of overwhelming. Kind of like a lot of times you get, all the tabs open in your browser, and finally everything just crashes, and I think the learning Shakespeare is a lot the same way. There's just so much that gets overwhelming, and that's, I think, where a lot of times Shakespeare comes from. So if we can teach the plot first and get it out of the way, and then it kind of serves as an anchor to hang the rest of the stuff on. Everybody's like, oh yeah, I kind of know what's going on, and so that's the goal. That's what we want to do with this activity. So what we're going to do actually is we're going to get a bunch of character cards, cast the play, and we're going to get a summary of the play. We're going to read it, and then we're going to act it out 15 minutes in class. We're going to improv the entire play, and that way we know what's going on, and it makes Shakespeare a lot more fun for the rest.
Mowbray and Bolingbroke accusing each other of treason.
You!
Treason!
You!
They're about to duel when the King Richard steps in and tells them to stop. Soon after that, John of Gaunt dies. Richard seizes his lands and his money. So we begin to march. Okay, you can march right across stage for now. So get back your lands. Meanwhile, the Welsh army.
Welsh. Yeah, Welsh.
You've been waiting for Richard to return from Ireland.
Where's Richard? Oh no, I thought you had him. Well, we're waiting for him to return.
He doesn't show up, so the Welsh army goes home.
Let's go eat some cheese.
So our materials that we need are our handy-dandy Shakespeare for Dummies book. You can see this is kind of really well used. I've had it from like California to Russia, all over the place. So it's kind of beat up, but it's a great resource to have. It's got all the plot summaries in it with scorecards and things like that. So I'll put a link in the description below if you want to pick it up. So I got my summaries in here, and then you've got your character cards that you can make up. I got a couple from my plays in here. You can do it a bunch of different ways. A lot of times if I'm feeling kind of pressed for time, I just write them down on a bunch of scrap papers like this, and I have them out. Sometimes if I want to get fancy, I go to the office and I get those, hello, my name is stickers, and I can write all the characters on that, especially if I'm running a workshop somewhere else. If I've got a group that I think really needs to be able to see the names and understand who they are, I'll get more placards with construction paper, Malvolio or whoever it is, and the string around it so you can neck, and that way kids can kind of see and read the names too. But a lot of times if you've got a million things going on, sometimes it's just hard to get to that, and you kind of want to keep them, but they get wrecked on it, or your daughter draws ponies on it or whatever. So most of the time, honestly, I just sort of have these key cards like this in my book. So casting the play, there's a couple different approaches. Sometimes just random. I can put them in a hat, or I'll hand them out like this and people pick. The danger is, then maybe have someone who's really tentative and they've got Hamlet, and that could be a recipe for disaster. Then you've got the big ham, what's a big part is a tree. And so I try to be strategic with that. Sometimes I'll just randomly draw, but if I know I've got a kid that's great for a part, I'll sort of, hey, pick this one, or hand it out, or someone's real tentative, hey, I need you to be the bush that Romeo hides behind. And so so, I kind of modify it based on what what my class climate is like. And the other thing is, I'll try to get most of the main characters out there, but I'm not going to do the servants and the small minor characters. I think end up being more confusing. Sometimes I'll add them in if I need to. But what can be really effective is, especially for those more reluctant thespians, is to, bring. You're going to play the bush in that Romeo hides behind the balcony scene, or in Twelfth Night, I love having, you're the bow of the ship, and you're the stern of the ship, and you're the mast, and you're the captain, and so you've got Viola who's sailing across with her brother, and then you be the storm, and the storm comes in and crashes the boat into pieces, and then they can do different things. So I try to cast it as much as I can, so I get everybody that's involved at whatever level that they can do, and it just seems to work better that way. And then, so you read the summary, and then you direct and read at the same time, and get everybody to improv the play. And it's super. It can be really fun. It can be hilarious, and it's dynamic. So, for example, we've got a Twelfth Night here. And so the summary kind of starts with Orsino, the Duke of Illyria, is madly in love with the Countess Olivia. And so it's like, all right, go over there and be madly in love. At first when you start, like, what does that look like? I don't know. And sometimes they'll swoon, or sometimes they'll do, it all depends on the student. And then, so you go there, be madly in love. And then, but she has different ideas. She is mourning the death of her father and brother, and will not speak with Orsino, nor will she accept letters or messages from him. Then I can say, you be the messenger. Here, deliver this letter over there. And, okay, I bring the letter. And Olivia, reject that letter. And sometimes they'll just throw it, or give it to hand. Or what's hilarious is not rip it up and throw it away. So you prompt and sort of act things out as we go, and you can cover the entire play in 15 minutes or so, depending on how thorough you want to be, and it's great. It's super dynamic. So a couple other applications that it can be really good for. A lot of times, even if it's not Shakespeare, parts that are confusing in books. It seems like a lot of times kids are confused in To Kill a Mockingbird, like what really happened with Bob Ewell and Boo Radley and the tree and the knife at the end. And so if you act that out loud, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And or if you come back after a day of reading, or even like a weekend, like, hey, let's review what happens up to this point. And so that's just a great way to review, and it's dynamic. People are on their feet, running around and being active rather than sitting there and listening all the time. Another time, what I used to love to do when I was directing is that we would rehearse a scene earlier in the week, and then I would ask the kids, hey, try to be off book for that scene rehearsed, or all the scenes we rehearsed when we run the entire play on Thursday or Friday, whether the last rehearsal was for the week. And so they would memorize those scenes that they had just done, and then we would just improv the whole rest of the play. It's like, you guys basically know what happens, make it up, tell the story, and they would just improv, and it's hilarious. Sometimes they do an Italian accent, do just crazy things to bring the energy up, and go fast. That's the other thing. The faster you go, it just brings up the energy. So it's a great sort of tool to use for a bunch of different things besides just Shakespeare and before you begin. Also, one secret power tip, I think, whenever dealing with Shakespeare especially. Years ago, I'd gone and I'd done a Shakespeare workshop with Shakespeare and Company out of Lenox, Massachusetts. And they were awesome. It was a fantastic workshop. I learned a ton of stuff. And one of the most powerful things, Kevin had told me, we were doing some workshop in the scene, and he's like, don't be good at it. And it seems silly, but I was like, oh, that's right. I don't really have to be good at it. That's not the point right now. I'm just want to play with the process, and it's incredibly liberating. And I find myself saying that all the time. It's like, the kid's like, oh, I don't know, don't be good at it. Because if you were good at it, I have to be a roofer instead of an English teacher. We want to engage in the process. And I find that such a powerful concept, because kids are not worried about getting it right, or I have to be perfect, and try to explain to them, look, all learning is failure, right? If you didn't fail, if you didn't get it wrong, clearly you didn't have to learn it, you already knew it. So that making mistakes or playing with it is an important part of the process. Be free, have fun, and allow yourself to experience those moments. And it just makes that climate in the classroom so much more successful, more positive. So that's it. Hope you had a great time with this video. Thank you for watching. Again, please hit the subscribe and the like button. And until next time, have fun with Shakespeare.